And we're live. Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out another stream, another one of these Saturday at 9 Pacific time streams where I work on my side project mostly. That's what these streams have been about. I mean, in theory, they could be about other stuff, but pretty much just been about this side project since I started them back in January. This is the 34th stream, 34th week of the year, I believe. Somewhere close to that. And yeah, making some good progress. If you see my post-it note wall, those are the finished ones, and my microphone's kind of in the way, but that's the to-do board. Usually when I get done one of those, it creates a couple reds, an occasional blue. Those are like features, nice to haves. The reds are bugs, of course. And yeah, I've been working through them slowly, trying to prioritize stuff and get it done at a certain point, hoping for like maybe around my birthday, around end of November, that kind of thing. Let's just jump right into what is the project. What am I talking about here? So this is what it is basically at the moment. It's the OS in the browser, as I like to call it. Not really an OS if you want to get into it though, but it's coming along as far as a functional thing. Probably more like a desktop environment. But there is some infrastructural pieces that needed to be made that aren't really, you wouldn't call them part of a desktop environment, but I needed them to make all this work, to make all the magic happen that I'm working on all the time. Oh man, I've done so many changes this week, I think. I think you guys will be interested perhaps at all the different things. And yeah, I've just got a bunch of different files and formats that I'm working on. I've got an MP3 here you can play in Winamp. Got the Winamp player. It can do all the stuff you'd expect it to do. It works pretty good. In fact, it has skins as well. We want to load one of their skins. Got one of the skins there. Can just leave that, lock that into the top right there. Close this window. Could open up what other ones we got here. I need to get a text editor. Here's a DOS one. This happens to be the Doom game. So you can double click that and just load Doom. Oops, I maximized it there. That's a little bug I should note actually that I've had for a while. In Windows, if you double click, if you click once and then move the mouse and then click again, that's not counted as a double click. But if you do it in the right amount of time, on mine currently it is. Let's add that to my next stream notes. Only double click if mouse is not moved. Yeah, that sounds right. There might be a little bit of logistics to that because you maybe can move it the tiniest little bit. Is not moved very much. Let's just say that. That's for next stream because I don't have a solution. Let's just start to drink as well. So powered by Red Bull today. Today we're gonna open it on video. Usually I started without you guys, but today we start together. Cheers. Tastes like purple. It's delicious. Delicious, nutritious. All the issuses. So as far as what we're gonna do this episode, we're gonna kind of do the same thing I've been doing for a while now, which is looking at my commits that I've made in my evenings, my off time, as I call it. Just any moment I have to think about it nowadays. Pretty much when I wake up, and then when I go to sleep, thinking about different features and stuff, and just about programming and that kind of thing. I'm having quite a bit of fun with it. So yeah, here's some commits I've done. Some of them are just one-liners, some of them are undos. So we're gonna go on this journey together of these 43 commits and see if they have any coherence to them and see where we get at the end. And without further ado, let's jump in. I think every episode I say without further ado at least 3 or 4 times, feels like. What's the first one? Simpler iterate file name function. Oh yeah, why is it simpler? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take the URL, I'm gonna do .patch to the end. I'm gonna save this .patch file. I'm going to jump back to the code. I'm going to open up a terminal, and then I'm going to do git. I'm going to take an hour and a half to try to remember what the patch command is. I'm going to give up, and then I'm going to search for it. Git patch. I bet it's just literally the word patch, but I didn't have confidence that it was. How to create and apply a patch. This is already more than I care about. It should be patch. No, not the diff. The application of the diff. Oh, guard. Format patch? That can't be it. You know, last episode, I just watched my last episode where I did this a million times, but, you know, I only just started doing patches. Ah, it's apply. Now I remember. Too late. Too late to seem smart. Okay. Users, Dustin, desktop, whatever the heck the patch was. What was it called? 4.2 something something or other. Oh yeah, it's got text to it. I don't care. So we're going to apply this patch, and then just like that, we got the change. Drum roll. Here we go. There it is. Now we can get a better look at this with a nice little pretty diff. So yeah, I didn't need dir name or join anymore. Why is that? Instead of path, it's just name. So this is a oh, okay, here we go. So before I was joining it here, right, iterate file name. Why am I okay with just the file name and not its path? Right, I think that this wanted to be a name in the end anyways. This was supposed to be giving a name. Oh man, how was this even working before? If it was adding a directory, what was it adding? Well, it's better now, but I don't path. Yeah, I think all that this was passing was a name. So dir name of the name only would just give back nothing, maybe? So it was joining nothing. And then I was just getting this anyways, which is what I wanted. So basically it was an oversight on my part that I even was needing to do that. Or maybe at one point it made sense, but I remember I looked at this function and essentially I was passing in the name. I'm not passing in an entire path. So dir name is pointless and joining it is also pointless. But for some weird reason, it happened to give me a useful result. So I didn't notice it, but now I did. The end. We'll note of this commit because it is of somewhat noteworthiness. Barely, though, if I'm being honest. And then we'll move on. What's next? Only refresh related folders. This sounds simple enough. Ah, yes. So let's just, this is just one we can manually change. Let's jump to the code wherever the heck I wrote something that looks like that. So the update folder command, this is the command that runs to update the folders. It gets a list of relevant paths. So let's say you updated one folder. You want to also update the child folders to that. Right. But this syntax of saying new file, old file, if old file is defined, it doesn't have to be, but if it is, it's considered like a delete, I think, on the folder. Or a rename. It's considered like a rename. So the child folders could also get renamed unrelated files, basically, which we don't want. So the solution, simple enough, was that if in this loop, the watched folder, that's the one we're looking at, is the folder that was one we wanted to update, then we'll do the proper update where we pass in parameters and get it to do renames or deletions or that kind of thing. Otherwise, we just run the empty one where it's just a refresh. Basically to tell the related paths that we want a refresh, but the main path we don't. We want a full proper update files function. Some of these, you know, the deeper I get into this video, the harder it gets to explain this. I mean, if a programmer comes and sees this, maybe they can see the techniques I've used for my loops and my conditions and that kind of thing. But to know what update file is, to know what the FS watcher is, to know what, you know, so many of these things, you're going to have to go back to old videos. I'll just warn you guys right now. I mean, I'm hoping to write the code in a clean way where you can kind of read it and go, oh, okay, I think I see what's going on here. But I'm not going to be able to explain, you know, the this and the that of, okay, update folder is this, and I've changed, last episode I changed this and this and this, you know, it'll just go on forever if I do that. Well, we won't get anywhere. Every episode would be just like longer and longer. Only refresh related folders. I explained the gist of it. The people I talk to in the video are myself and people who have been watching enough to know enough where I don't have to explain every little bit. So hopefully you guys can want to take, you know, come along on this journey, so to speak, and we can have some fun along the way. What's the next one here? Fixes to dragging locally and append. Oh yeah. I gotta get better at naming my commits. I have, so this shouldn't be too hard. But this is another one where I really prefer the diff method of getting the patch and applying the patch, because it's just a heck of a lot easier for me on VS Code to read a diffing compared to, you know, on GitHub. It just doesn't look the same when you got the red and the green. I mean, this is red and green, but I like the side by side. I guess GitHub has that too, to be honest. Maybe I should just switch to that view. So here I was saying if it's dot or directory, but that is not necessary really. Basically what I'm trying to figure out is if you go dir name and you give a name and you get back a dot, it's basically saying there was no directory. Right. So I think that makes sense earlier for when I got rid of that dir name that was doing join. I think if you do join on in like one piece of its dot, it's just ignored, I think. So in the case where I do dir name name and I get back a dot, then it's going to be in this condition. But if I don't get back a dot, then I've got a full path. And if I get a full path, that means we're dealing with the dragging and dropping functionality. Versus, yeah, this is the new path command. So there's no file, but the name is a path. So there's some kind of operation happening here. A new path coming from a path, an original path, which is like a move. Right. So that was all I was trying to check here was, is it a path or is it just the name? And I can do that in less, which is what I figured out. And then what have I done here? I use this twice. Why? Oh, if name does not equal renamed path. So before I was just doing rename in any case. Okay, yeah. So I moved this to rename path and I checked to make sure it's not name. Why is that? What was this commit for again? Fixes to dragging locally and append. Right. So why would I care to? So I drag in, I say a new path. Oh, okay. Is the renamed? Oh, right. This was to fix the issue with dragging onto your own folder. So like, let's say here, if I drag this and I let go there, I think it's for sorting. I think it triggers a refresh. Let's try it here. So demo's here. So if I drag and drop, it'll probably jump to the top. Drag, drop. Yeah, there we go. It triggered that. Oh, I'm going to make a new path, even though it didn't need to. That's what this, wait, this should have fixed this though, because I applied this. Didn't I? I just applied these when I did the patch, and things are running here, so is that not to fix that? It seems like it would have been. Well, if it's not, then I think I fixed it in another one, but let's just see here. Maybe it just needed a refresh. Let me do another refresh. Let me reset, in fact. Bring back that music. Okay, it's here now. Drag, drop. Well, is that what I was trying to fix? I don't know. Now I'm questioning that commit because to me it makes more sense that it would be about that. Renamed path. If name does not equal renamed path. Let's check this. Let's try to understand what this is and if it actually is triggering there. In my mind, it is. So if it's being silly, we can try to solve it right now and see if that was what the problem was. Let's check it out. So let me move back here. Right, that's fair. Okay, move it back here. Okay, so now this one. Well, those clearly equaled each other. So what are we talking about here? Oh, let me just jump to the code again here. So this didn't occur? Perhaps I fixed that issue in another one. Let's just leave this then. I mean, this is an improvement. It shouldn't have ran rename, so presumably it didn't. Let's put it there and just see if we see the same thing. At this point, I should throw a debugger in there just to save us some time. Let's try it here. Yeah, see, it's not triggering, but it's triggering for something else. We'll get to it. We got a million other fixes to do here. So that's a good starter one. I don't want rename to trigger when it's the same file. That's stopped. There's still a refresh occurring. We'll figure that out. Here's the other piece I changed. Right, this is in regards to the root path. Ah, yes, this was the other issue. If I dragged into the root path, every path was the child, was a relative path. So it's like, if you're doing something in the root path, then it was considering every child to be related. And that's the one case where I don't want it to do that, basically. Because then you're just every single folder. You got to pick at least the first tree or something, you know? So what have I done here? I've said if a folder is just a path, then the only relative path is itself. Otherwise, we do that same logic we were doing here. But there's also an additional change here where I say the folder Right, is this for the parent again? So before it was saying if the watched folder equals the path's parent folder. And now I'm saying that the parent can't equal that path. Okay, that's fair. It's kind of a little repetitive in that I run this command twice. But is there a better way to do that? I've got dir name there. Doesn't equal this and does equal that. Well, would watched path, what's watched path again? Right, so watched path could be, maybe I could just do watched path here then. Because if watched path like this doesn't equal that and watched path equals this, that seems like just as sensible. And then I don't waste my time with this. I'm accepting that logic. Let's take a peek at it and see. Make sure we can drag to root without it blowing up on us. Let's open a few folders. Okay. And now let's drag that on there. Okay, that went okay. Doesn't seem to have exploded on me. I'm going to download this so I can put it here. There we go. And then I'm going to try again. If I drag it here, that seems fine. If I rename it, okay, it's not causing other effects. So I think that was basically what I was interested in. Watched path doesn't equal root, and it is the dir name. Yeah, that's reasonable. Okay. What did I name this commit last time? Fixes to dragging locally and append. Well, I really got to start naming these commits better. I had a comment the other day that got, I don't know, for some reason someone commented and then deleted it right away, but they made a good point where they were saying like, I need to name my commits a little better because some of these episodes, it's like if I don't know what I changed, it's kind of silly. I definitely, I can see here the changes and some of the reasoning behind them, but I don't remember the best way to demonstrate their flaws, which is something I need to improve on. But bear with me, or skip ahead later in the video if you want to future Dustin. But past Dustin is going to do another commit. I'm going to save that. Oh man, have I done 3 commits but I only have 2 notes? What have I done here? I forgot this one, the only refresh related folders, but I did do that. Okay, so there we go. We got 3 commits and we got 3 notes. The world makes sense again. We've done these 3 and we're moving on to the moved updated of dragged folder to drop handler. What? Moved. Let's just take a patch again and take a peek at it. Thinking of a better way to do these patches too. What else? Yeah, if you guys have any ideas for some videos or some different ways I can do some videos, please throw them my way. One idea I was thinking of the other day was to start doing some like demo videos of my progress. Just like the thing I do at the start of the videos, basically, but so people can kind of see where things are going. So for use draggable entries, I no longer need the URL. Okay, that's nice. And for use folder, let's go back to draggable entries here and try to understand this one. So I don't need the URL anymore. I'm not doing update folder there. And now when drag ends, I just set dragging to false. Okay, so now on drag end is not when I update the folder. So I don't need the URL to know that anymore. And instead on the use folder command, here's where I'm updating the folder. Ah, okay. So this might have been missing because this is just part of that other change. So it's the name doesn't equal the rename path. It does the rename, which is basically a move, I think. I think in the case of a new path, and you're here at the rename part, it's actually a move going on. So it's going to move it, and then it's going to delete it from the directory it was in. Or no, here it's going to show it and add it to the directory it's in, and delete it from the directory it wasn't in. Right. So it can happen here instead of happening on drag end. So drag end can focus on just dragging for now. So that was the gist of that one. Let's just, as a test, just make sure dragging hasn't blown up. So we get that MP3 here. We'll just drag it here. It worked. Boom, boom. Seems to be working. So great. moved. I'm going to reword that to be in English. Moved updating of dragged folder to drop handler. Yes. Yeah, I'm not 100% happy with the wording of that in regards to how the code actually looked. But gets the point across. Moving on. Fixed error loop on multi-select. Oh, right. I remember this is from last episode. If you select two things, whoa, gets in an error loop here. It starts freaking out. 7. It's only got 7. Oh, no, it's got many 7s. Yeah. So it's unhappy with that. This is just one file. Instead of a patch, I'm going to just open the file and copy it. It's the file entry index. So we'll go here, we'll type index, we'll look for file entry, which is here. We'll paste in the changes, save, and then we'll wait for the update to see the diff. There we go. So instead of show full name, I say is only focused entry. That's actually what I want to know. I prefer this Boolean to the other one. The other one's like show full name of what versus the is only focused entry, and the code fits better with what that's doing. So here I've moved the is focused piece into that condition where I say focused entries include. Yeah, it's the same thing. I just moved that into the condition, and I've changed the name of this to be about that. And that looks like mostly just a rename, honestly. What was the big difference here? I guess just bringing this in. Fixed error loop on multi-select. Was that occurring because of how was that occurring because of anything related to this? Oh, maybe this. It wasn't even in the is focused. Oh, okay. So before it was based on is focused, which was outside of that condition, but I don't need is focused here. What I need to know is it the only one that's focused? If it's the only one that's focused, then you can focus on it. So I think it's like bouncing between two focus entries. Let's try the fix then. So we got the fix. Now when we do that, it doesn't explode in the console. So that fixed that. And now it's basically focused on whatever the last one that got selected was. Okay. We actually add a lot of features this episode. I mean, we're starting slow with some fixes, some tweaks, but we start to add some buttons, some clickers, you know. Everybody likes buttons. Or I guess these are more like context menus. Feel free to leave comments, by the way, chat, anything like that. Throw me a like, throw me a subscribe. Those kind of things. I forgot to say it at the top of the show because it's important to me in a way, but I'm not going to push it on anybody. Okay, fix issue with focusing on same named files. Actually, first let's go into the code here, and then in the next stream, I gotta mention here, fix refreshing of folder on drag drop entry into folder, because that's happening right now, if you guys remember. And I thought it got fixed, but just in case it doesn't get fixed, I want to make a note of that because that's an annoying bug, in my opinion. So what's this one? Fixed issue with focusing on same named files. I wonder what they mean by that. I'm saying they as if I didn't write that. Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, these files have the same name and I can't click them. This one I can click, this one I can click, that one I can't. Okay, and you see it like almost like between them. There's a few little bugs like this that I fixed this episode. So I'm going to do the same thing where I just make a patch and I save it. Can you imagine if GitHub went down while I was doing this episode? I would be completely lost. My entire show relies on GitHub working, basically. Just something I just realized when I tried to load the patch file and it slowed down for a second. I thought, oh, well, I hope this loads. I don't have a plan B if this doesn't load. Okay. So what were these changes? What was the thing again? Oh, right. Being able to focus on multiple items that have the same name. So I've moved the is focused piece out of this condition altogether and into here. And it's a hook now. called focus checker, use focus checker, that also that requires the file manager. I guess this required the file manager before. No, it didn't actually before. Oh wait, it's here. Yeah, it was just looking at the focused entries before. And then the is only focused is now using the is focused function on the file name, and it still checks if it's one length. So I've kind of enhanced the focus logic here. We'll check that hook to figure out what it is. Yeah, and in all these cases currently I'm using the isFocused function. I feel like I changed this down the road, but let's just try it to see if it in some way makes sense. So the focus checker, yeah, it's still doing this piece here, the includes piece, but the piece it changed here was to make sure that the active element, the element that's currently been clicked, is in the file manager. Right, that's fair, because then so when I click on the one in the desktop, it knows, oh, okay, it's the desktop one, I'll focus there. Okay, this might, I think what I change later on might be that this is the only relevant piece. More so than this, but I'm not sure, to be honest, completely. Let's just go with that. So that makes sense in that this part was important to know which file manager it's in. If you have something with the same name, because of the way that I'm doing these focused entries. I think I end up redoing that too. So I changed is focused here again. Where is this? This is for another place that had the same focus logic where it was looking at just the entries. Instead of looking at just the entries, I switched to this hook that also makes sure it's in the right file manager. So this is for the file entry itself and the focused entries hook. And now if we look at the browser, oh, refresh. And now when I click, there we go, it clicks fine. I click this one, clicks fine. There we go. So that part's working. I'm not 150% proud with this code, only because I know that I think I changed it a few times. But this got us the result. And now we can kind of commit this, and we can kind of see some refactors on it along the way. I don't want to change it too much at the moment because it's actually not bad the way it is, but I just can't remember. I think I made an improvement, quite a few improvements upon it, to be honest. We'll see. See if you guys can think of what the improvements are before I get there. What's improvement number 1? Focused entry just in case for drops. Okay. Right, I think well, let's just see where this is. Looks like it's in one of two places. Here it is. This is on the file entry. Triggered by... Yeah, I think it's like it's questionable what triggered it. If there's no selection rectangle, and it's the file manager exists, then it would go here. If there is a selection rectangle. If there's not, and it's focused, and it's only one entry, and it's the active element. Right, I think that this was always to handle the drag element when you... Oh, I'm sorry, guys, darn it. I hate when I forget to flip to VS Code. It bugs me so much. Because I'm talking about the code here, and you don't see it, so I sound like a crazy person more than usual. So the condition in question here, this is for handling the selection blue square, and this is the case of handling an entry being dropped in. And basically all I wanted to do was just add focus here. Let's do a test though, just to see. Now we'll go to the browser. So I'm going to drop something in. I'm going to drag and drop. So you see that dropped in, but it did not focus on it. That displeases me. So let's add that focus entry before and see if it makes a difference. So here's the focus on the element, but I never told it to become a focused entry in the list so that the tool, the app, knows to display it that way. Let's try again here with another one. So now we'll drag it again. And it still didn't focus. Let's try refresh. Drag again. Okay. It's not perfected yet. Maybe it just doesn't work on that kind of drag, but the internal drag does. So external drag doesn't work. Let me try internal drag. No. Well, I did say just in case, so I'm not 100% certain on this commit, but I'm pretty sure there is supposed to be a focus there. Pretty much whenever you're doing the dot focus on element, I also want to do focus entry to make sure that it's in that list. So we are going to commit this as an improvement, but it didn't improve on that specific issue. Just in case. There's some reason for it, but I need to start writing demo logic in my commit messages or something. Okay, well that's the first day of things I did in my evening. Move on to the next one here. Fixed focus, drag, drop, item issues. Oh, that sounds nice. I think this was that night I'd given up, actually. I think, like, I gave up here in the night, and I was like, I'll commit this one piece, this one line that I know. I know that there should be a focus entry here, but it helps not enough. Oh, that Red Bull purple, man, it's amazing. So then the next day, yeah, this was the day I gave up, fell asleep, and then I come back here and kind of fixed it all. Now, as you see, this is a bigger commit. That is a huge commit, actually, now that I look at it. Good lord. Okay, so that's obviously we're going to have to apply a patch. I'm not going to type all that out. That's what I used to do in some of the streams. I would look at the entire diff for, let's say I have 50 commits. I would look at that entire diff and try to recreate it. And in some ways, it almost went smoother. So I'm not sure if I maybe should go back to that format, but to me, it seems daunting now after doing this new format where I can just run apply patch. I've had some issues with apply patch too. The thing is, if I deviate from the code, then the patches kind of start to not work. So I like to go on the journey together because at the end, we pretty much get to the same place. So which file should we focus on first to try to figure out what I've done? Right. So one of the first things I did here, the session context, I took out focused entries from the session context because it didn't make sense to be in the session. I removed it from the session and I moved it into the focusable entries hook. Makes a lot more sense, I think, to be there. So this commands I don't think changed at all. I think I just cut it out. Yeah, that to me looks the same. So yeah, I moved it into there. The blur entry, focus entry commands. And then within focusable entry, there's some more changes I did. So remember we had that focus checker. I got rid of that. I've gone back to this original logic for is focused. So just looking in the focused entries. And I've also moved the class name here. Okay, I no longer return a function. Oh, no, I wasn't before. God, this looks weird. So before I was returning a function, it looks like I no longer need to. That didn't make no sense. Where's this file here? Oh, okay, so that's the function right there. Oh, okay, so now I return... Before I only returned a function. Now I'm returning focusable entry is the function. I also return the focused entries, focus entry, and blur. Oh, okay, yeah, the three things that I moved out of session. Whereas, so before this was just like one thing I returned as that function. So not too much change there, except that the isFocused function / hook is gone. And I've gone back to the original method. Right, and I moved the types in here. Those were probably in the session types here. Yeah. So that explains most of those changes for those three files. Next, for draggable entry, now instead of getting them from the session, I'm just passing them in, blur entry and focus entry, as these focus entry functions. And that's all that changed there, pretty much nothing. This is the file manager. Let's go to use folder here just to say what changed there. Right, so here's where I got those focus functions that are being passed as well. Why don't I just do... Can I do that? No. I made that up. If that works, why not just do that? Yeah, that looks better. I don't know why I did the other way before. So we get blur entry and focus entry passed into us, just like the use draggable. And the other piece here that changed... Okay, this changed quite a bit. I've gone to doing unique names for the dragging of the internal drag. This is the external drag, things coming from outside the browser. This is from inside the browser. And there's this unique name logic here, and I basically just copied it here pretty much verbatim. So that's a little bit not so dry. I might end up undrying that in a little bit. I think I end up changing this quite a bit, so we'll get back to that in a minute. But in case I don't, let's make another note. Dry up unique name functions. That's on my to-do list in case I don't deal with it here. So remember we had those two updates. I've added a blur all the things, and then focus as well. Okay, that'll fix that focus, I bet, for the internal drag at least. I'm not sure about from external sources. And yeah, this is just doing that rename loop in the same way that this one does to get that proper unique name. But basically nothing else changed there. Yeah, it's just that I'm using new path recursively, just like I do here, to try to get a unique name. But nothing else changed. I also do an exists check before I do the rename. And if it exists, I run it again with a different name, which iterate file name function already existed. Okay, so that's all that changed there. And okay, let's go to this index here. This is the file manager. Not too much changed here. Here's where I pass in those things. The focus functions I pass to use draggable entries and to use folder. Those are coming from the use focusable entries, whereas before they were coming from nowhere. Where the heck? Yeah, but right, before they were part of the session and they were being grabbed in the hook. Whereas now this one hook is getting the focused entries and then passing along the focus functions to the places that need it. And I've had to move up these declarations a little bit just to get the proper dependency injection. And then I've also passed it here, the focused entries and focused functions, so that the file entry knows about it. And now we get to the last piece, which is the file entry. And we see what's it doing here. So like I said, we're passing in focused entries and the functions. We need them here. Here we move back to that basic check where we say, is there one entry and is it the focused entry? That's how it was before. So we've actually reverted this. Yeah, that use focus checker, I guess, wasn't really needed, it looks like. But the key, yeah, I don't know. Doesn't seem like it was needed, honestly. I'm not sure why I changed it and then changed it back. So let's just check it out then. I basically put that back to how it was. Let's refresh this again. So let's try external drag. Okay, now it's selecting properly. And if we try an internal drag, there we go. Now it's selecting properly. So when you drop it, it's properly selected. Yeah. And we'll fix a few other bugs along the way. If you see here it's selected, but we're just seeing ... I'll fix that in a bit. So I'm not even going to make a note of that one because I know I fixed that. But if it's selected, it should not be ... So the long and short of that commit is basically that message that I wrote here, which is fixed focus, drag, drop, item issues. So now when you go drag out from the browser into the window, it'll focus when it's done, and same with the internal drag drop. Much better and much more simple, and we don't need that focus checker logic that didn't make a lot of sense. Right, so I changed one line here somewhere. Yeah, I changed this line. Hopefully that doesn't mess with our next patch, but who knows, honestly. Probably it will. Fixed. It's all about focus the first little bit. Move document imports into page. Right. Is that all I did? It looks like I did an update of Next.js here. Yeah, did I? Here's the yarn file. I know about this move here. Okay, so I updated some types. We're not going to do that. This piece here. Or should we? I mean, we're going to do package updates later, so let's ignore this package update. And let's just focus on this one piece. So the reason I decided to move this was when I did the update of Eslint plugin next, it added a new rule where it really doesn't like the fact that I was importing document from outside of the main document file. And I don't know why that matters, but I'm just going to trust them on it. And I'm going to move my hook, my not really a hook, but this with styled components thing that adds it to the context of the Next.js app. I'm just going to put that back in the document. I mean, I like the idea to be able to split it up a little bit. But if Next.js has written an Eslint rule that says don't import document anywhere else, they probably had something going on there. Probably there's some logic there to that. And I'm not going to mess with it. So, we're just going to remove it. We're going to delete this entire function from there, and we're just gonna have it in here. It doesn't make any difference to the code, really, but apparently it does. So apparently it can. I'm not sure if in my case it was, but it sounds like solid advice. So I've just decided to use it. So instead of having this import document, we're just gonna have the one import document in the entire page. And that's coming from next document. So if we do a search here, yeah, there's only one of them now. Before there was 2 places where it was being imported. Maybe they just have the weird way that they do their logic where that's important, you know? If they're writing Eslint rules for it. So we'll just accept it. I've done it. Accept it. Allow drag drop multi. Right, this is a cool one. So this will allow us, if you see here, I select 3 items, let's say, and then I drag, it only drags the first one. And through the power of imagination, we can change that. Let's go into our patch and patch the patch. It's going to be named 2C. Oh, not 2C. There we go. 2C1F, 1E, 4C, D, 6B, F. All right. Let's get to it. Let's see what the diff is this time. What's the big diff? So I went from file path to file paths. And now when we get data, I split it by a comma separator. Okay. And then I just do file paths for each one to do the same callback it was doing. That part's really simple. What's the next piece of the puzzle here? So in the use draggable entries, before I just had the focused functions, but I also want to know about the focused entries now, because those focused entries are the entries that I care about. So now we got focused entries. I even imported it that way in the other one. So that's funny that I didn't do the first one that way. Okay, so we got the focused entries, and basically all I do is run this command. A new set that consists of before it was just the file here. Right, so it's text plain, it was joining the entry URL with the file to make a string of the path. Now it makes a new array of the focused entries and the file in case they're the same thing, just to get an original array. Wait, could the file ever be the same as the focused entries? Yeah, absolutely. It will be. Wait, in that case, couldn't we just have the focused entries? Do we care about the file? Maybe we don't. Let's console log this just to confirm our theory. But if file and focused entries are essentially the same thing, then we can change it a bit and risk messing with our patch. So we get an array of these unique files, and then we map them by doing that join command, just like was being done here. And then we just do toString. And when you do toString on an array, you get that comma separated array. So that's why I was splitting it by comma. Let's just double check if those 2 pieces are the same. We'll do a test here with some files. Let's say these 2. We'll drag and drop. There we go. And it dropped both of them. And as you can see here, yeah, this file and this file were both in there. What if we try it with 3 things? Yeah, same story. It's right there. Okay, so it's pointless to do what I was doing there. So we can just say focused entries. There we go. Focused entries map. For each entry file, do that same join, and then toString the entire thing. I wonder if there's an easier way to do that. Perhaps not. I think it's simple enough anyways. Let's just test that one more time with that modification to make sure I didn't break it. We're going to just refresh everything here. I'm going to drag these 2 commits there. So now they're here, but I want to drag them into my internal folder structure. Select them both, drag and drop. Cool. That works. So that was great. And we made it simpler. And perhaps endangered our chances of patching in the future, but that's okay. For the sake of improvement. Allow drag drop multi. I don't know why I had to abbreviate it, but there we go. We'll let code, what's this thing? Copilot help us out there. Next. next one up is the don't set explicit all for pointers. What does that mean? Take a sip of my drink while I think on that. Don't set explicit all for pointers. Oh, so right here. Let's take a look at this and try to make sense of this. Oops. Pointer dash event. There's several. So this is the case where there's an all, and there's one other case. And I think what I've decided to do is, yeah, I care about none, but the default of the none, the reverse of none is not all. So I should just say undefined. Back to default, in other words. I could say inherit, I guess. But I'm not sure if inherit is... I mean, I guess inherit works. I think IE didn't do inherit, but at the same time, I'm not supporting IE. So let's just do undefined, though. Undefined basically doesn't pass it. So everything you don't set, of course, is inherited. I think in that way, it seems more performant to me. So it's preferable. Don't set explicit all. Yeah, so that's simple enough. I'm not even sure what that fixes, to be honest. I think some of these are just some code smells that I've fixed. I tried to add a lot of stricter Eslint rules throughout the weeks. Throughout the weeks in general, but throughout this week in particular. I did more of them than usual. Allow selection behind windows. Right, so here's another thing. If I open up a window here, and then I'm doing my select, and I go like this, you see it stops it. If I avoid the window, and I do this, it's fine. I can go behind it, but as soon as I touch it, it would stop. That's not how it works in Windows, so of course we need to change that. And how have I done it? I've taken the styled file selection and I've turned it into JSX. So the styled selector currently is where? Weird. Styled selection. Oh, there it is. So right now it's extremely simple. But we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna turn it into a TSX file and we're gonna add some JSX to it. And then we're gonna take a look at the difference. Actually, you know, before I rename it, I'm going to put it back to TS, and I'm going to paste in the differences. It's going to complain here because I'm using JSX. But I just want to see it, and then we'll get to see what I've done here, because it's kind of interesting. So basically what I've added, I switched it from being... I've switched it so there still is a styled selection, but it's no longer a styled component. This is the styled component, styled selection component, which I use, and I pass props into it that come from the original prop, so it still works the same. The only difference is that I apply this styling when the styled selection exists, and this is actually a global styling via the create global style. So I made a styled component called no global pointer events. So when I'm dragging the selection, all other pointer events basically get disabled on the body. And it works. So that's cool. Let's go back to changing it, renaming it then, so it stops complaining about the JSX in there. There we go. Now it looks more clean. And the only other change I needed to do, so in the styled file manager, we don't even need this anymore, where we check to see is it selecting, I think. No, is that it? No, the pointer events. Yeah, that is it. So this thing here was based on the selecting prop. It would disable pointer events, but now we're just doing that globally. Wait a minute. But this one needs to stay enabled on the file manager that's being selected. So for that, I need to do this. So the pointer events still need to be auto on the one this one that is selecting this styled file manager. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be able to click on that one. So if I disable them through the entire body, all of them are disabled. And then this one, the one that's being selected, can be enabled. Let's try it out. So there we go. We got that. And then, oh, there we go. Now, oops. Now I can go through it. And it doesn't complain. And I can still select the icons. Okay. Because those are based on the position of the styling, not pointer events existing on this. They're based on the boxes covering the other boxes, basically. Cool. So we've got a better behaving styling now there. Let's commit it. Allow selection behind windows. That is exactly what this does. Save that one and go on to the next. That was an entire other day, so that's 2 days worth of work. Worth of my evenings. 1 pixel column gap for file entries. Okay, yeah, this is simple enough. Basically, if we see here with these, the spacing between these two icons, there's essentially no spacing. And in my opinion, I've seen in Windows 10 there be no spacing. But lately, when I've been looking at my desktop, there is 1 pixel of spacing. So I don't know if I'm crazy or if I misread it one time, but I'm going to adjust it here so that there is 1 pixel of spacing. We already have plenty of pixels of row gap. So I'm just going to look for row gap because it's the only one that's got row gap. And what we're going to do is we're going to add some column gap. And I'm going to set that column gap in the theme. I'll again look for row gap here to find the right area. So yeah, it's the file manager. And we are now setting column gap on it. There we go. So now when we go, it might not even be perceptible. Oh, you could see that there was a little twitch there. And yeah, now there's essentially 1 pixel of space between those. It's not super visible, but it's there. And it's how it is in Windows, as I like to say. Let's try committing that then. 1 pixel column gap for file entries. I do kind of like it too. There's something to copying the Windows styling, where they've kind of thought a lot of that stuff out. It's like, I like the way they've done it, you know? I'm not just trying to copy them. I like, this is the way that I like it to look. I mean, if there's something, there's probably better options out there. I'm going to have skinning options at some point. What's this one? Open documents via sidebar. Yeah. Oh, here's where did I move some folders around? What did I do here? Oh, yeah. Let's hope I can just apply the patch here because I moved some folders. The basic gist of what I cared to do here was that when you click on the start menu right now, and there's a documents button here, I click it, it doesn't do anything. Power does something, power resets everything. But clicking the document button currently doesn't do anything, and that is not the ideal scenario. So let's see what we can do about that. We're going to attempt to apply the patch. Oops. It applied. It applied. So let's see what... Okay, so a lot of stuff changed here, but the basics of it was that I just moved a bunch of files into one folder called Documents. And if we look at the difference here in public, yeah, you see it's a smaller folder structure now, and Documents now. Before, these 5 folders were inside the root. So Flash, Images, Music, ROMs, and Skins. And I'm going to redo this directory structure in the near future to be more Windows-esque. But for now, I just wanted to reorganize the documents into one specific folder. I think it was nice to organize these, so that's a good first step there. And then as far as code changes that needed to occur, very little. Basically, just on that Documents button, I say open the File Explorer to the Documents folder. And I don't know if there was even a Documents folder before, so I had to make it and then put all that stuff in there. And I just had to update 3 references here to the Winamp skins for the... for where they are, basically, that they're in the Documents folder. Let's take a peek. Oops, I slipped my camera there just to give you guys a peek of me. So we'll refresh this, and now when we open, yeah, there we go. Now the folder structure is different. And now Documents has a lot of stuff in it. And if we close these and we click the button there, great, it opens the Documents folder. And we have all our stuff in there, and it still works as expected. Okay, that was a nice little first step to reorganizing. Open Documents via sidebar. Includes making the Documents folder, but not the documents. The documents already existed. Fix mounting issues. What kind of mounting issues we got here? Oh, yes, right. There's some kind of issue. Let's take a peek at it here. In the raw, no, images. Here we go. So these ones here, if I try to open that, there we go, it's empty. But then if I open it again, it crashes the entire system. So that's bad. So you see it's a problem. Open it back up here. Right, so that's the problem. Well, there's your problem. Now let's try to have a solution. We're going to try to do another patch and hope for the best on it. I'm gonna oh no, I moved I think I resized the window slightly. Let me just put it back into place there. There we go. ever so slightly. And we can just try to apply yet another patch. We got the same window open. Oh, nice. It applied as well. I'm happy when they apply because we've changed things minorly. So it's complaining about this. It's probably wrong. Let's see here. Right, yeah. So we take in update files now. Or no, wait, we export it. Oh, okay, cool. So even though update files is part of the watchers, right, it's triggered by the watchers, so you want to keep it isolated typically, but in this case, why am I using it? Ah, because in the case of mounting a folder, there's not going to be multiple mounting points. You're only going to mount the folder in one place. I think it's even a limitation of it. So it's okay to have update files in this case to say, just in this one case, only this directory, only this box, and not like globally. Like if you open up the desktop folder and the desktop, I want you to update both of them. It's never going to happen with the case of these mounting of ISOs. They're always just that one container. I guess that means I couldn't allow the desktop itself to be a mounted object. Well, I could, but then I couldn't open it as a folder too, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, what did I change here? So before it was mountfs, now I've turned it into a bit of a promise where I say mountfs, then update the files. Oh, wait a minute. Can this just be... No. I was thinking I could just pass this like that, but the trick with that is then you get whatever's being returned from mountfs gets passed to update files, and then that function does things based on that. So we don't really want that, even though it looks like a shortcut. And then the last little piece here, I guess I turned mountfs into a promise. Yeah, it wasn't a promise before, now it is. And yeah, here I was running update folder. Right. So this was that issue where I was like, oh, update all the folders. No. In this case, I want to update one specific file. This one specific folder with the update files command, which now happens on resolution of the promise instead of passing in a function or something like that, like a callback. Okay, let's try it out and see if it stopped exploding. So we go back to our, where the heck was it? Documents, images. Here we go, and open. There we go, and it opened correctly right away. We close it and then double click it, opens correctly right away. So much better. That was the solution to that problem. And I'm gonna call it fix mount fs issues rather than mounting issues, because I don't know what the heck mounting issues meant until I looked at the code, but I know where mountfs is, personally. Okay, what's next? Eslint package updates. Okay, are we there yet? Maybe it is time for package updates. Let's do package updates then. It's as simple as opening up a terminal. First I like to do yarn outdated to know what I'm missing before I just jump into an upgrade. A lot. Mostly Eslint, it looks like. Yeah, there was a lot of Eslint. Okay, let's just update everything and see how it goes. Yarn upgrade -- latest. Drink the little purple. I think that has several meanings, saying that. With a water chaser. There we go. We got all our updates. Now I'm assuming yarn Eslint still works. I'm hoping. Who's to say though? We'll see momentarily. While that's running, let's just see what package is updated again, just to double check. The metadata from so from a dependency point of view, almost nothing. From a dev dependency is mostly just linting stuff, and my linting rules passed, so let's just say it's good, right? And we'll call that package updates. Gotta do it every episode. I used to always do it at the start, but now I kind of just do it whenever I feel like it. It always gets done eventually. And that gets us for the 17th, so we got 3 days left. Here's where I did a lot. Oh yeah, this is where I was doing linting. So I got a bunch of commits where I just cleaned up some linting rules. Moved start menu toggle out of session. All right, this was me trying to move more things out of the session context. If you remember, I moved the focused entries out of there. And there's even still some stuff in there, I think, that I haven't moved yet that I probably would like to eventually. because I want the session to just really focus on things that the session's doing, you know? Whereas, and not be used as some like global context. But in a way it kind of is, so it's tricky. So for the start menu here, now I import toggle. So toggle is no longer controlled from within the start menu. Okay, I remember why I did this, but move start menu toggle out of session. Interesting. I think I did this for 2 reasons, but let's just double check. Yeah, here in the taskbar now, right, now I'm passing toggle to the, oh no, I was before, wasn't I? To the start button. Let's go and look at the start button then. So before, oh, okay, before it was right. It was part of the session. It's part of the session. So the session was saying when to toggle. Now that gets passed in for the start menu. It's getting passed in for start button too. So the start button and start menu are getting it from there. The start button also needs to know if the start menu is visible. Possibly. And it's doing the logic here to do the toggle command. Based on, oh, okay, so it's doing what the session was doing. The toggling of the start menu logic was in the session here. Just like that. And now it's been removed from there. It's been removed from the types, and it's been moved into the taskbar. So that makes sense that the taskbar is handling whether or not the start menu is open. That's reasonable. And then here's the start buttons refactoring. So now it gets start menu visible and start menu toggle. Whereas before it was getting those from the session. That's all that changed though, honestly, it looks like. Yeah, okay. So that was a minimal change. From a functional point of view, it's not noticeable, but the session became a little lighter, which is nice. I want to keep getting stuff out of that session. Unnecessary to be in there. What do we got next? What do we got next? Store less in session. That also sounds nice. Right, so this was pointless stuff. I was actually writing the foreground ID in stack order into the session file. That's stuff I have no need for, no interest in. We'll just go in and manually remove that. Like you can see here, at this part here is where I read the session file, and I use the theme name, the wallpaper image, the wallpaper fit, and the window states. So that's these here, so basically not these. What was that? What was that? Foreground and stack order. Foreground and stack order. There we go. Simple enough. So now that just focuses on things I'm actually gonna... I only write the things that I later read in to the session. That happens sometimes, you know, you just get this cruff of data. Store less in session, done. Active coloring for sidebar button. Right, okay, yeah, that's a simple one. I'll just show you what I'm talking about too. So I click there, you see what, watch, I'll tell you, I'm gonna click down, I just click down, nothing happened visually. And then I let go and it opens. So what I want is when I'm clicking down for it to visually change ever so slightly. So we'll go into the styled sidebar button and we're just going to add right here an active state that changes the background color. So if it's hovered, it's this, but then if it's hovered and active, it's that. Via the CSS cascading magic. So we open this again now and I push down, you see it got a little lighter. So you push down, it gets lighter. Down, lighter. Oh, interesting. Is this because Documents is already open? Oh, yeah. So if it's already open, it doesn't even try to steal focus. That's a bug I did not fix. Let's make a note of that. Documents, sidebar button. Doesn't work when window is open. Yeah, that's the gist of that issue. Let's commit this active coloring though, because that we did succeed in. Active coloring for sidebar buttons. We did that. That was achieved. Mission accomplished, as they say. Copy paste. Now that's a cool feature, right? Copy paste. So this is another big one. Let's get this one in and see what it has to offer. I was pretty proud of this one, actually. Pretty proud. Basically, this allows us to copy and paste internally, not externally. Oh no! The use folder has changed a little too much. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into that patch and just get rid of this little use folder change for now because it's not a minor change, unfortunately. There we go. Now the patch applies, but we don't have the use folder change. For that, I'm unfortunately going to have to manually apply it. Dun dun dun. I'm just going to try to find it here in the browser. So there's use folders changes, which are not nothing, but I've changed it too much now, so we'll apply these manually. But let's first see what all the other stuff's all about. So what was this change for again? Copying and pasting, right? The ability that when you right click, we can do copy and paste, in other words. So for the file entry, all right, so the main concept is I've named this thing called the paste list, which is in the part of the file system. And it keeps track of what's been copied or cut to know, so that when you go to that list, when you want to paste whatever's in the clipboard, basically. I could call it the clipboard list, but I like paste list. It's really its only purpose, honestly, at the moment. Maybe I'll rename it when it's multi-purposed. So the file context menu, the right-click menu, I've added the focused entries passing. The reason behind that, I have this focused entries length equals 1. Yeah, the reason for this focused entries is to know, wait, what the heck is the reason for this? Let's jump to the full file context menu and see. So we take in focused entries, and we're getting this list of the path names. Oh, right, so that we can do the cut and copy. Does that make sense? Oh, yes, it does, I guess. So when we say to the move entries function that's part of the file system, so right, this use file system, remember, it has the paste list. It also has a copy entries and move entries function to know whether do you want to copy it or you want to move it. And the absolute entries piece here takes the focused entries list and fills out its path. This could really be done somewhere else. Although no, because I only know the path here. I could pass the path as well, I guess, to move entries. I could say for this path, these focused entries. And then we could do absolute entries somewhere else. That might make sense. But then every one of these functions maybe has to do it. But I could move. Yeah, it seems weird having this logic living in the right-click menu hook. I think what we'll do is we'll probably take this and we'll just pass in the path and we'll pass in the focused entries. Although, does that make sense? Maybe we'll leave it here for now. I'm not sure about that refactor. I don't think this is the perfect place for absolute entries, where it takes focused entries and adds the path. But it's not bad. It's useful in this case, because when you say cut, you say, hey, I want to move all the focused entries, their proper path. Same with all the other scenarios. For delete, I actually just loop through them and say delete for each one. It's a little harder for move and copy because I have to make entries for that paste list. Let's get to that magic. We're not quite there yet. What do I have for the right-click for folder? All right, so right-clicking the folder is where the pasting happens. So then I say paste, and I have this other function called paste to folder. And that's coming from the folder actions, which we have to add in the use folder. So in the same way that there's file actions, there's folder actions. One of the folder actions is you can say paste to folder. And then it knows to go to that paste list to get the list. So this is a pretty simple part. And here's where we get to those operations. The paste list, the copy, and the move. The paste list here is just is this type that I've made, which is right here. Yeah, it's just it's the path, and then the value for the, so it's an object with where the key is the path, and the value is either copy or move, so that I know if I have to copy or move. And that's all that these copy entry and move entry is doing, is it's saying update paste entries. here's the entries. Wait, really? Why do I have to pass in the entries? What is entries anyways? Entries. Oh yeah, the entries that came in, of course, duh. Here's the entries, copy them. And then it sets the paste list where it goes through the entries and it makes this mapping of them, of the name and the operation, and then it converts that into an object that's the paste list. And finally, I export it. And what changed in the icon here? Oh, right. So when you cut it, it's in a moving state because you're about to move it. So now I have it when it's in this moving state that it has an opacity of half. Otherwise, it's full opacity. That's to show that it's ready to be cut. So that explains the gist of it, but we need the use folder part. So let's also open up the use folder hook, and then I'm going to have to paste in my changes in this case. So we'll just paste them in as we go. So the first thing is we're going to have to export that paste to folder that we said we wanted to have in the folder actions. So we'll say the other folder action here is one called paste to folder. We can also alphabetize this while we're at it. Maybe I do that later. I mean, I could spend all day alphabetizing stuff that I missed. I'm going to make a linting rule for that at one point and just kind of go through them. So as far as use file system, I needed to import quite a bit more. I was already importing a lot. I already have add file, add the file system watcher, remove it, get the FS, get the update folder. And now to add to that, we also want copy entries and we want the paste list. Now, why does this need copy entries? Good question. First things first, let's do the paste to folder function, which will be pasted somewhere in all this mess. Oh man, there's a lot of functions here. This is the paste to folder one. Basically what it does is it goes through the paste list objects and it gets the file entry and that operation. If it's a move operation, it makes a new path for the file entry. New path is the local to this folder. So it's saying, I want this path to be in my as a new entry for me. And then we clear copy entries on a move operation. Now on a copy operation, we don't clear the entries. So for a copy operation, we just read the file and then we make a new path where we pass in the buffer instead of just saying, hey, just move it. So that's the basics of that. That's all there is, honestly. And then at the bottom here, we just have to make sure to export it. Okay, so I did alphabetize here. I'm going to do the same. So we add new, and then I've added the paste. And I'm going to also at the top here fix the alphabetization. There we go. I think that's all we need, honestly. There wasn't a lot to it because we've already got all these functions. So we've already got a lot of the groundwork. Let's try it out. I'm going to open up a folder. So let's try the session here. Right click. And now we see we have cut and copy. And if I press cut, you see how it becomes kind of faded. And then if I go here and I go right click, I press paste, then it pastes. And if I right click now, you see paste is disabled because there's nothing in the paste list. But if I were to press this now and press copy, you see that the icon doesn't change opacity. But now when I right click, there is the ability to paste. And if I press paste, there it is. And I could press paste again and it might fail. No, it didn't. Nice. It even did the unique name because it's using that same new path logic. So cool. So we got the opacity when removing it. We made the function to keep track of that paste list, which could be called the clipboard, but it's in this case, it's mostly being used as a paste list. Here's the function itself. If it's a move, we make a new path. If it's otherwise it's a copy. And we read the file and then make a new version of it and a new path. The absolute entries thing, I'm still not set on that. What's this path one here too? Is this another case where it has to be unique, or is it another case where they're going to be the same? Let's try that again too. Let me just double check this. I want to see, is path and focused entries, is path always in focused entries? Now I think path might be a complete path. That's the difference. Oh man, what did I just console log here? What was my console log originally? I've lost it. The path and the focused entries, right? So the focused entries right now is empty. Right, but let me try one here. So I click this. There we go. So now those are the same. Right. So when I click it, the left one is a full path. Right, right. Let me go to a subfolder here. Here we go. Yeah, so this just says doom URL, whereas this one has the full path. But when you think about it, is it always going to be a focused entry? I think so. If you're right-clicking, then it's only the things that are focused, including the thing you right-clicked, that would be part of the list. So I don't really need path. You're going to get it here. Wait, this is path. Oh yeah, the dir name of path. Yeah, okay. Plus the entry. Yeah, and the entry will be in the list here. So again, we don't need a new set, really. We can just do this, and we'll get them all that way. Yeah. Do we even need it as is it still an array, too? Right. Yeah, we don't need any of that. I got overzealous using set, but I don't think it's necessary. So when you look at that, it looks a lot more simple. I still question if this should actually be, but I don't want to pass focused entries. I don't feel like passing focused entries into the move entries thing. Maybe it makes sense though, honestly. I wonder if this doesn't need to be a function, and we just figure this out every time. But you only need it when you click it, so maybe it's nice to have it as a function. Yeah, I think I'll keep it as a function. I really only need to calculate it when it's necessary. Let's just test that worked. Let's do this. We'll right-click those and press cut, and then we'll click here and press paste. Yeah, and there's all three of them. And now the start menu will be empty. And I could drag Winamp in here. Oh, whoa. I mean, hopefully I fix that later, because that's wonky. That's obviously wrong. Seems to be missing the name. Why would it do that? Is it because it's a shortcut? What about a file? No, just in general, it's wonked. I wonder what thing broke that. If I try this. Oh, man. When did I do that? So, like, wasn't this working before? Pretty much, I feel like every episode now there's some bug I introduce. It's a mix of fixes and breaks. Here's that moving logic. We didn't look at this before, but here's where I pass moving in. If the paste list path equals move on the file entry, in other words. Yeah, so there's always a paste list. This could be undefined, but that's fine. As long as it checks it. Well, that's the change. We got copy and paste. It works. I don't know why I've broken drag. Let me just try to clear the cache again and see if that fixes things. Now let me try here to do a drag. Oh, man. Okay. Well, let's just make a note as another bug to fix here. Fix broken drag. This literally worked like 4 commits ago. Internal. Does external drag and drop work? Yeah, external drag and drop has the right name, but this does not. Well, we'll solve that later. Did we fix the dragging locally having that refresh? No. Whoa, it's even more weird. Well, it's not refreshing the same way, but yeah, it's got some other issues there. Let's just push along. We got copy and paste. We've somehow broken some drag and droppage along the way, but it's bound to happen. We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. We're making notes here. The thing is, last episode I had a bunch of notes, and I did fix those things mostly. Although if I keep breaking things every episode, I don't know if we'll ever be in a perfect state. I improve some things and break others. It's possible that I fixed this in a later commit, but it snuck up on me that I broke it. What's this here? Safe default. Oh, okay, that's a simple one, sure. So for the paste list, is it this one here? Which one is it? The one in used folder context menu? Well, how is it used here? I mean, that's not safe either. If anything, then this should be like this. If I'm worried about paste list being empty. I guess it wouldn't happen here. If paste list is empty, then the entire app hasn't initialized. And if the app hasn't initialized, you're not going to see a file entry. So that's the reasoning behind not needing that. But where I do need it is in the folder context, I guess. When you first load the first desktop app, this occurs first. Feels like this would need to be fixed in other places too then. Oh, right. It's because of this way I'm running it here. Well, honestly, yeah, I could see it being a problem here too. Anytime where I'm treating it like an object. So the fact there I was treating it like an object, I think it's safe to put this safety in place. Here as well, I'm passing object keys of object. So it needs to have been an object. Here I'll default it. Maybe I'll just default it here too then. Here I'll default it. And then I don't need that safety there. I don't think there's a lot of other places where it's necessary. I mean here, well, no. Well, here it is kind of necessary too. I mean, if somehow paste to folder was able to run before initialization, it seems impossible. But I could do this anyways. In that case, why don't I do it for practically everything? Well, most things I don't treat as objects though. Copy entries, do I treat as an object? No, I treat it as a function, but still I'm assuming it exists. Let's not default this one. Maybe let's not default that one either then. I'm just going to do the one that mattered, the one that actually caused an error, because I think it was actually breaking tests. Now I feel like if we did a test, it'll probably work okay, and that's kind of all that matters to me up front. Yeah, that worked out okay. So let's just leave that and say safe default for paste list. I don't want to go overboard with the defaults though. That's why I don't want to try another one just yet. Let's see what the next thing is I broke, or M to break. Here's where I just do some linting rules, I think. What's this one? Consistent indexed object style. Right, this is about, instead of declaring an object like this, where I say object, and then I say like a key where an extension is a string, just use record in all cases, basically. And I'm totally fine with that. I hope this is an autofix rule. And let's try to apply it as an autofix rule. By going into our Eslint rules, pasting it wherever the heck it's supposed to go, which is alphabetically right around here. And then I'm going to try yarn Eslint and see if it, first it'll pick up the issues. There should be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. At least there's 5 places in the code that I fixed it. Yeah, okay. And it says 5 are fixable. So we'll do yarn Eslint -- fix. And then in theory, it should change my files to the more consistent format of using record for the TypeScript. There we go. And now we have 6 changed files, and it did it for me, yeah. So I'm perfectly happy for it to be like that. These were all pretty redundant to be anything other than what they were before. And I was using record in other places. There's more of this during this stream where I try to adopt more TypeScript linting auto rules like this. Okay, there's one. These rules are my favorite actually, because once you set them, it's like, okay, now I don't have to worry about that consistency. It'll do it for me. Next one, no implicit coercion. This was only being used in 2 places, but it's true. Here it was just this guy, I copied this script. Someone was doing like plus the M time, and plus would convert it to an integer. And here the pound converts it to a Boolean. Instead, we're just going to say number, we're going to say Boolean. We're just going to be very clear in these cases. Because the other ways are kind of like, almost like syntax tricks. Which are cool, but I'm kind of trying to get away from those. I feel like every time I do a syntax trick, I have to explain to somebody what it is. And then I feel like, if I had to explain it, does it save any time? Sorry guys, again, I forgot to switch over. I've added the rule, the no implicit conversions. It only found 1. That's odd. Okay, well, it can auto fix that one, but I think there was another one here. I don't know why it's not seeing this now. Let's just look for it ourselves. Here it is here. Yeah, I wonder why it didn't seem to have a problem with that one now. Maybe they decided against that one being an issue, but I like this Boolean way of doing it anyways. There's something very soothing of just saying Boolean there. I don't know why. So that fixes the implicit coercions. Specifically that plus one, though, was a gross one. Where it's like, plus what? What are you plussing? And it's like, oh, you're just trying to convert that to a number. Oh, okay. There we go. So now, to me, I prefer it this way. I don't know about you, but at the same time, I didn't ask for your advice, sir. I'm just joking. I actually am asking, I'm pleading for people's advice. Please post advice. So here's where things get a little dicey on my linting file. Oh, and on some of the changes. Yeah, it looks like. So let's list first. So what changed here? So the basics of what I did, these rules here are exactly the rules from before, I think, except for one extra rule. The no unsafe assignment. This rule. This rule requires that the code properly be running through the TypeScript parser and that they have the project file set. And then when I did that, I found out it was complaining about JavaScript files getting TypeScript linting. So what I've done here is I've taken those rules out of the main rules and I've made an override rules that is just for TypeScript. That says override rules for the TS and the TSX files, you run these linting rules, which are just the TypeScript ones. We're not going to worry about running those on the JS files. And we're going to specify the parser stuff so that it can properly do parsing of the types. So we'll fix that. I'll just delete all the TypeScript stuff here. And then we'll put it in its own section, the override section. Oh, what happened here? I'm trying to understand how I've pasted this. There we go. There we go. So that's the, now it's just the overrides here. And now if we do a scan, I think we're going to find a few things here that need fixing. And it looks like a couple places. Let's see how many fixes it says, or how many bugs it says I've caused here by doing this no unsafe assignment. Because I like when it catches these things. Here we go. So it found 5 issues, and if we dig into them a bit, they are legitimate. Where's the first one here? On line 38. Here, why is it not highlighting it for me? Oh, okay. Right, because it's not considered an issue, I guess. Although it should be considered an issue here. I'm confused by not highlighting it, but it doesn't matter. We can just fix it. And the way that I fixed it, basically... I'm just trying to double check I didn't change any code. Yeah. So the issue is, if you go to the onMessage type and you look at it, they typed the message type. So if you hover over message type, it knows that that's a string. But if you go to event type, command, and message, it doesn't know what those are. Because the way they've done the rules here is ... is any. So everything else is any then. And we don't want that. We want command and we want message to clearly be known as strings. So we'll just update that, and now those explicitly are strings. So now when we run the replace command, it's not on just a whatever. It's on a legitimate thing. So these no unsafe assignments basically help point out to me where there was any's, like hidden any's almost. So the next thing it's complaining about here is the same thing basically 3 times. It's this internet shortcut here. And the way that I fixed it basically is to just make a type for it. So the INI is parsing this, and I know that it's going to be an internet shortcut. And the type for an internet shortcut I'll just define up here. And it's basically just as you see it here. It's an object that's got internet shortcut inside it with a base URL, an icon file, and a URL. And all of those are strings. And they're basically just associated with the shortcut format that I have for INIs. Right here of base URL, icon file, and URL. So I've just defined that. That's another any that's gone. And then the final any that I wanted to get rid of here. Oh, this one's a little more confusing on my part. I'm just gonna copy this file. What is this one? This is in the session types. Or is it? Oh, okay. No, it's not. It is and it isn't. Here's the issue. The issue's on line 65. Right, it's this piece here. the JSON parse, it doesn't know what this is it's expecting, but here I'm already knowing that theme name, wallpaper image. I know about this stuff, but it doesn't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say as session data, and then we're going to make a type of session data. We're going to put it where the other types are. And we're just going to take a peek at what it is here. So it's just the same thing. It's theme, wallpaper, fit, image, and state. And I've removed them from here. And I've said like the session context state is the session data and all the functions to kind of make it all work. And if we go back here, we can import session data from the right place. And there we go. And now when we run the Eslint rules, there shouldn't be any more any's anywhere. So every single thing is explicitly defined now. In theory, I could still easily be missing some, but that's the goal of that rule. You see, it takes a little longer to lint now. That's because it's linting my types better as well, which is kind of cool. There we go. No unsafe assignment. Lint passes on TypeScript files and on the JavaScript files. Next up, can't remove this override TS rule from JS. What's that mean? Oh, can remove. Okay, yeah. Right, so there's one JavaScript file that now is no longer even being scanned for this rule. This is a JS file that had one of those rules where I was ignoring the linting, but now it's not even scanning for that rule anymore, so we can just ignore that. So removed unneeded Eslint ignore on JS file. I'll say ts/Eslint ignore. There we go. So Eslint still passes even though I removed that ignore because that rule was now focused on the other stuff, on the TypeScript files. All right, that's the same thing. No unsafe. That's the next one on my list here. So I added two here. No unsafe call and no unsafe member access. Okay, those are some more TypeScript ones that I've added to go along with the no unsafe assignment. Where is that here? No unsafe assignment, no unsafe call, no unsafe member access. So we'll scan those, and I don't think it's going to find too many things, but I think it was good enough to find a couple. Maybe not, honestly. I fixed a few things on this commit, but I don't know if they're related to these linting rules. Looks like no. Well, I'm happy to have those linting rules and happy that I already pass. But one thing I wanted to add on this commit that I seem to have done anyways was if we look through here, I'm always applying empty buffer, but I didn't apply it a couple times. Here, was it? Yeah, here, and I think just one other place. Almost always I did. Here. Yes, exactly. Those are the places where I was missing applying an empty buffer. And it could cause an issue down the road. I think I found that by doing another Eslint rule that was actually annoying. It was giving too many false positives, but it was part of these grouping of these no unsafes. So I'll say no unsafe linting rules plus empty buffers. I don't know about that description. That's a weak one. It's weak sauce. Anyways, committed. Next one up is optional chaining cleanup. Oh, was I able to do this with a rule? Oh, okay. No unsafe optional chaining. Hopefully that is a rule that I can scan for, because I'm not in the mood to change a bunch of little guys. No unsafe optional chaining. Do another Eslint and see what that gets us. Just looking at them, there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh man, there's a lot. At least 10 it looked like. See how many it finds. 2. Can it fix those 2? No, unfixable ones, so we have to do them all ourselves. Let's try to apply the patch and see how far that gets us. That'd be cool if it worked. I'm going to save the patch and do my usual thing and see if that in any way works. Oh, there's the patching. Oh, let me switch to the code. Sorry, guys and girls and such. Oop. EC. Okay, so it's not going to work unless I undo this change, because that's part of the patch. So let's apply the patch. Oh, and it applied. Okay, great. So now we have that rule, and then the optional chaining places I did. Oops. Were yeah, here. Right, I don't need to chain container ref ever. Right, I think this was what I'd missed before, was the refs. I was chaining a lot of these refs before current, and the ref will always be an object, pretty much, so kind of unnecessary. Same thing here, yeah. Same thing with just all the refs. I just got rid of the question marks on the refs. Same thing again, yeah. Just all these, just a few of these that are just unnecessary, optional chaining. This I had to make more safe. I think that was just something I caught. Oh yeah, that was here, but it probably should have been there, I guess. Yeah. R&D ref would, again, refs are not going to be empty, so this part would work. But this, why did I add brackets here? Oh, right, for that again. Yeah, children could, wait, could children be empty? But it's right there. Is this a different one? Or is this the exact same thing? Oh, no, it isn't the exact same thing. I see. That's coming from here, which is coming from there. Okay. All right, so then I've just added some safety with these optionals. Yeah, that had to be safety for an array. And again, an optional chaining. So this was mostly just optional chaining cleanup and making sure that there's arrays in the cases where optional chaining fails. A lot of linting improvements. Don't try and load empty session. That sounds like good advice. Oh, okay, so I made a mistake here with one of them already. Right, yeah, that was a mistake. Darn it. Even when I was changing it, I felt like, is this a mistake? Maybe it is. So it's for the use session one that it's a mistake. Yeah, here. I added this one, but this is the one case where I don't want an empty buffer by default, because I check content already. In pretty much no other cases do I check content, I think. Yeah, it's only ever checked here. And because if I don't want it to continue forward if it's empty, because if it continues forward, it's just going to set a bunch of wrong things. And if the sessions, yeah, if this, just don't do this, basically, is what I want, which is what I was getting with the code. I think that even causes some kind of issue on load, but let's just save that. It was just not the correct behavior. It's clear when you see that there's already a condition there. Added shammings. What is that? I have no idea what shammings is. Let's take a peek. Oh, shamings. I was trying to say shamings. I was trying to shame myself. Yeah, I'm not even going to do this one because I removed these later. This is annoying. I'd like if these just warn me in the console when I run the Eslint, but this in the IDE makes all my code but after those lines all junky. I kept note of these because these are important ones. One day these are hopes. I hope to be able to have only 80 lines per file and only a certain amount of nested callbacks, because I think those are pretty legit code smell arguments, because they do make it harder to read. But I'm not gonna. It's just too much of a fight to try to do all that right now, so we're not gonna worry about that. Alphabetize TS config. Okay, let's do it. So I flipped exclude and include. Otherwise, I just did like an auto one. I'll do another one just to show you guys. So I'm gonna take these values. There used to be some way. There's a plugin in VS Code to alphabetize, but I'll show you for really lazy people like me. I just go like alphabetize your lists. There you go. This is just some Google site I found. There, it's alphabetized. I mean, rather the time it takes you, if someone goes, oh, you can just install an extension, and the time it took you to say that, I could have sorted the list. So sometimes it's better to just jump in and find just how can I do this as quick as possible. But at the same time, I should at some point get that extension. So there we go. I just decided to sort these. It's just easier for me. I think I inherited the order from when I did an original next config. Original like creation of my next project, and now I think it's better sorted. I prefer to, in general, I'm trying to alphabetize everything. It makes it easier to find things. Next up, No unsafe argument. More of these no unsafes. No unsafe argument. Okay. I love these rules, man. I'm so into these rules. I don't know if there's something weird about it, probably, that I'm so excited about them. LNLP so it should be here. Let's do a scan and see if it found anything. In my test, it actually does find something on use folder. So let's just jump there because it only finds one. But I don't know if I again changed something that wasn't related to what it found. I think it's right here. Oh, okay. So it found 4 issues. They're all basically right here on line 54. Yeah, it's because this old file isn't any here because I'm defaulting to empty string, but it might not be an empty string. It might be something else. So in this case here, I actually don't want to default to an empty string because I think at one point that made sense, but I'm looking at them all here. I'm saying, is this in this set? Okay, do this. Is this one set? Is this one set? So I'm already checking them all. So instead, I'm just going to say they're optional and they're strings. So now when you check here, yeah, it knows, oh yeah, it's always going to be a string. So again, I'm trying to get all these little hidden any's that you don't know. It's like, oh yeah, actually, that could be this other type. But a lot of time TypeScript will infer that and go, oh, he probably meant that. But I like these Eslint rules because I almost never mean any of the things I do in the code. When I look at these rules and it ends up picking something up, I'm usually like, oh, okay, yeah, that worked, but I didn't think of that. This is another case of that. No unsafe argument. You can do an illogical argument, but don't give me an unsafe argument. What's the next one here? We still got quite a few little changes here. Check elements first. Don't assume. That's good advice. So I'm doing that in a few cases here where I had these ases. So canvas as this. It's like, well, let's just make sure the canvas is there. I think I actually changed this a second time to check for instance. I do. Let's just do that now. Is that in the 2 places where I found it? Yeah. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to just find these 2 changes. So where are the ases? Let's take a look. There shouldn't be too many of them. Okay, there's 105. That is too many. Let's just focus on the canvas ones. As canvas. And in the other case, it would be a div, I believe. Did the rule find anything? What was I didn't make a new rule here. This is just me. Let's take a look at the code again. Check elements first. Don't assume. I wonder why I just assumed it was those 2 elements, though. How did I know? It's because of this as thing, but I'm trying to figure out I'm trying to remember if I had a rule that made me find that. If I start looking through these, I mean, maybe I just did that. I just looked for the ones. Yeah, like here's the one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say canvas is an instance of canvas element. I like using that instance of. And now we don't have to do the as here because it will be that. I've willed it to be so. Let's just go through the other as's here. I mean, in these cases where it's a mutable object, it's not so bad. Or not mutable object, sorry, where it's a ref. Because I've already assumed here. I guess I could change these too. Whenever I'm doing the as, I might as well just be more clear and say is instance of HTML div element and then get rid of it here. Oh, wait, what? Oh, because this is inside a callback, so this is like an after the case check. Should I never have been checking here and just checking in here? Oh, that's actually literally what I did in my change. Yeah, that's here. So let's do that. This is the other case where I was assuming. What we'll do is we'll just put it in this call here. And we'll say it's an instance of the HTML div element. Then you run that. There we go. So that's those 2. Let's just keep looking at these other ones. That one's okay. I think this is... Oh, actually, this is another one I wanted to change. I think that might even be the next commit I do after. Yeah, it is. So let's just keep going through these as ones and fixing them. So instead of saying it's a buffer, I'm going to make sure it's a buffer and go buffer.from. These are the differences between doing it in the code versus doing it in types versus in the code. I much prefer it in the code. This is a type 1 here. This one is going to be assigned a value. So we don't need to check that there. Same here. I'm assuming it's an internet shortcut, but there's no instance of. I guess it's really good it's good to check in the instance of cases because in instance of cases, the browser needs to know about these things. The browser doesn't know about internet shortcut, but it knows about an HTML canvas element. In these cases, it's just for TypeScript mostly, so that I know files is where it's supposed to be. Size is, again, my type of thing. These ones here are questionable. Related target as HTML element or null. Okay, so in this case, it can be null. I'm not going to mess with those. Because those ones, it's okay if it goes past it and it's empty. This one too, yeah, because it's an array, so I don't think instance of handles arrays very well. These, again, are nothing to do with HTML objects. So that was actually it. As far as, well, wait a minute, what's this one here? Target as HTML element. Oh, again, that's just for typing. Those were the main ones then. Okay, cool. So those, if I go back to the browser, we basically just did these 3 commits. The check elements first, and then I changed them to instances, and then for that buffer one, I did the buffer when possible. So we're just going to change that to remove type as assumptions. I think I might know what that means when I look at that later and read it. So now we make sure instance of, and we do buffer from. Remove type assumptions, I'll just say. Oh no, that was an as one too, hey? Wasn't it as buffer, right? So now it's not an assumption. I almost should say remove runtime. Runtime type as assumptions. Yeah, it is almost a runtime one. It's like, at runtime, trust me, this will be here, wink, wink. But instance of confirms it when possible. So that's another day's done, and now we're down to these last 2. One-line conditions. What's that mean? Oh, okay. How did I know these ones here? I feel like this was something... There was some kind of function to do this. Well, let's just find it. There's only 3. I like one-lining these, but darned if I can remember what the command was to do it. I thought I found a command because I don't remember how I found these 3 cases and how I'm not sure that these are the only 3. But there's one of them. I feel like it might have been a prettier rule, but I don't think so. That's another one-liner. This one's not. We'll one-line this one. And there was one more. I know it's almost like an inconsistent consistency. I'm like I consistently want it to be a certain way when the code is a certain length, and another way when the code's another length, which can be confusing, I guess. But I'm a confusing person, so that's okay. One-line conditions. Okay, commit that. Clean that up a bit. And we're making progress. I know sometimes it looks like I'm refactoring and I'm just wasting time, but I'm trying to keep the code base clean. I'm trying to be proud of my code base. So sometimes we do weird stuff like that. I mean, it's not weird, but it's not just changing it for changing's sake. What I do, nah, this is annoying, commit. Oh yeah, that was removing my shammings. Here's where I do a couple of things that were on the board. So first one, I load an app via URL. I actually forgot I did this already because I haven't been using it. I have very little use on it, but let's apply it because I thought it was a neat idea. And I think from a sharing point of view, like when I start sharing links, once I have the page live, the app, whatever you call it. Oh, did I find Eslint errors there? I think it did. Let's see. I'm going to take a sip of my Red Bull while we're waiting for this Eslint to finish. Almost done my Red Bull, by the way. Ooh. Okay, it passed. Great. Now let's do a patch. Let's hope this patch will just apply. It did. Nice. So let's see. Just a couple changes. Right. So on the index page, I've added a hook called the use URL loader that runs before the desktop is triggered. No, not before. Use effect. So after it's loaded. And it does a use effect here. It takes the open process and it grabs the search parameters. It says new URL search parameters from the window location search. It gets the app and the URL. And if app and URL are set, then it opens the thing. Nothing too fancy for now. Let's try it out. So let's just go into our address bar here, and we'll just say $app equals v86. As you see, I've already got a few examples here when I was testing it. And URL equals, and then I just put my URL in there, document/images. So let's just use the one here, document images Linux. So I click that, and now when I open, there we go. It boots up Linux right away when it loads the page. So I could do that to have all sorts of different things, and I'll make it be able to do other things in the future as well, perhaps. Maybe have multiples, or who knows. Anyways, let's close Linux for now. That was one of the tasks on my list. So yeah, load app via URL. Nice and simple one for the most part, but it's a cool feature, I think. People like it. It's popular. And I added something else right after, I guess. What's this one here? This looks like the same thing. What happened here? I moved it back into... Why? Load app via URL params. This looks exactly like the same commit. What happened here? Why did I stop using the hook? I wonder if Eslint has an issue with me using hooks in the index. Where was that hook? Let's just find it again. Pages, use URL loader. This is the loader. And that was the index. And Eslint, do you have a problem with that? You want to tell us about? No. Okay, then I actually like this format for now. Maybe I'll have other hooks in here in the future. And it seems okay here, and we saw that the page was working, so I don't know what the point of this commit is, but I'm just going to ignore it. It seems pretty repetitive to the one before it. Use dynamic variants. Right, this is another thing I found out about that's kind of neat. It was just relevant for the... Currently, I only needed it in one place. Let's just go to where that is. Use window transition. So for framer motion, the animation library, you have these variants. So when it's active, I want it to do this. When it's initial, when it's maximized, etc. And for minimize and maximize, I wanted them to be dynamic. So I actually had made use effects, and I had states for them and stuff. But then I started looking, and there's actually the ability to do dynamic variants. So I no longer need use effect or use state. Didn't need to do use state here or use effect. And I basically can just set maximize as a function that returns the variant. I don't need any parameters from it, and then now it can just return the object directly instead of setting it as a state and having to keep track of dependencies and stuff. So just a little cleaner way to do it. I was happy to find out about these dynamic variants in framer motion, but I was only using them in one place, so let's just commit that. Okay. Next up, expand collapse start. Right. This, I think, ended up being a little complicated. Basically, when you open up the start menu and you see this here, if I click start here, it should hide the start menu again. And easier said than done, because it was partially based on CSS animations, partially based on transition timings, which are from CSS animations. So the vicious cycle, anyways. But what we're going to do is we're going to change all that, and we're going to start using mouse events. Nice. Again, a patch applied without a problem. So the first piece that I did to it is on the styles. No. Yeah, this is the main part of the code here then. So the sidebar buttons, this is the sidebar button, each button. Is it? Sidebar button. Yeah, this is just on a per button basis, this component here. I've added some props. Oh, I already had props. Oh, I've split it up into two pieces. So I've made a type called the sidebar button here, which also has a tooltip. So the tooltip overrides the name. So when you hover over it, it can show the name by default, or you can specify a tooltip. So the sidebar button is what the sidebar button props are going to have. But one other element that they can have is this collapsed Boolean. And if the menu is collapsed, then it will show the tooltips. Otherwise, it won't show the tooltips, because that's how it works in Windows. It only shows it, so if the thing's open, you don't need it to say the name because you see the name in front of you. So that's why the buttons need to know about collapsed state. And then here's the sidebar, right? So this file actually has this button component and the sidebar itself on one page. I usually like to split those up, to be honest. Maybe I should. Might be time, honestly. Let's do that. So we'll make a new file called the sidebar button. Oh wait, I already had that, no? There we go, yeah. Sidebar button.ts. I did not have that yet. Cool. And we're actually let's continue looking at the changes, and then I'll do my move of that. So that was the sidebar button. So here's the sidebar, what changed. So we added this collapsed state. And right, so before I was using a transition. So as soon as the element was hovered on, it would start a 400 or 700 millisecond timer, and then it would open. I've gotten rid of that, and I've moved to using mouse enter and mouse leave. So when the mouse enters, it starts a timer here that will uncollapse it. So by default, it's collapsed. At the start, you open it, the menu's collapsed. And then when you hover over with your mouse, it starts the 700 millisecond timer. I'll have to move that to a variable somewhere at some point. And then when that's up, it is no longer collapsed. If you leave it on the mouse, and if there was a timer, it clears the timer, and it sets it to collapsed again. And then if it's collapsed, then it adds the collapsed class name. And it also, on a per button basis, keeps track of that collapsed state, so that we can do the title to show the tooltip or not. And now I've taken the start buttons, the top buttons, and moved them into the component itself so that they can be dynamic, because I needed the start button, the start one, to have an action now. It's the only one that the only one that doesn't have an action now is the all apps. Currently, it doesn't do anything. So now the start button, now it has a tooltip, which is expand. So when it's small and you hover over it, it'll say expand for the start one instead of the word start. And then when you click it, it will set the collapse to a toggle. So it'll toggle it. Basically, get the current state and then flip it. Okay, so that's simple enough. Now let's take that button out. Here's basically everything we'll take there. We'll put it in here. And we'll just open this as a file to see what's complaining about now. What's missing here? Right, we don't need the styled sidebar button either. That can now be part of this. This needs to be exported. And this needs to be exported too. And this needs to be a TSX file, actually, not a TS file. There we go. Oh, what happened there? That's not what I wanted. Sometimes the auto import is a little silly. Okay, that looks like a little more manageable, that the button's right there now with the tooltip. And then this piece here can, if I press save again, it can import it in. Yeah, it didn't import it correctly though. There we go. Is that better now? Why is it being silly? Oh, right, because this is a type and it's a thing. Right, that's tricky. Right, because there's a sidebar button here. But the sidebar button itself is a component. So it shouldn't have a type by the same name. I could just call this button, I guess. No. Sidebar button type. I don't like to use the word type, but it's confusing because there's this component here that is this that renders a sidebar button. And it takes a sidebar button plus the collapse state as its possible things. Why do I care about the collapse state and why am I using it here? Right, to specify that these buttons, yeah, none of these would ever have collapsed. It gets passed in. And there's the button as a component there. So yeah, I just need to fix this one little piece. I'm trying to think of the best way to do that. Let's call it type, I guess. Sidebar button. Because this is sidebar button props, because the component's called sidebar button. Sidebar, but this is also the, yeah, that's a, let's just call it type and then I'll think about changing it later. Sidebar button type. No, I don't like that. But then what am I going to call this sidebar button component? Okay, I'm just going to call it type for now and move on. So that'll be, then I can fix this by calling those that and importing that. There we go. That'll work then. And I'm going to add a note here to rename that. Better name for sidebar button type. Yeah, not happy with that name, but fits the bill. So the code didn't change any more than me just doing that little extraction there to split up the sidebar and its button. Let's test this out. So now when we open the start menu, we hover, it still works, unhover. That part still works, that's nice. And if I click, it goes away. I click it again, it opens. Cool. Right. Oh, what happened here? Is that because I loaded too fast? Why? Oh, weird. All right, let's get that out of the URL. It's causing us headaches. Okay, so I hover and then I click. Yeah, that's working. And if I hover, so I go away my mouse and I come back, then it works again. That's pretty similar to how Windows is. It's not perfect yet. As far as the CSS changes, we didn't look at those yet. So if you remember that class is getting applied. So now I say if we're hovering and it's not collapsed, then we do all those visuals, except for the transition because that's handled by the mouse overs now. And then here I've added the transition on the buttons for exit, the same that already existed here because that was just some visual glitch that I noticed was not quite right. And here I did the same thing basically. If it's not collapsed, then do the visuals like before. So I basically am using that class to do some work. I still find a lot of use in classes, even with styled components. I'm not sure if they're frowned upon, to be honest, but they've just been useful to me. I just can't stop using them. Can't get enough of them. Well, we've done all of these now, so all that's left is these three things. I'm pretty sure that means, oh man, what happened here? My commit didn't work. Well, that's good. So the commit didn't work. That means that it actually caught something most likely. Let's check our output here for git and see what happened. Oh, that's weird. Oh, here. Oh, there's React being imported into the sidebar? I didn't notice that. Somehow that got slipped in. Let's find where that's happening. Here? Oh yeah, sneaky. Don't do that. Unstage this change so I can change it. Yeah, so that's snuck in there. I don't like that one bit. These pieces were needed? Yeah, because now we needed the timer and state. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes auto import tries to slip React in there. Luckily, we have so many linting rules now that it wouldn't let it through. I didn't even see what the issue was with it, but I think because I don't have React declared globally, but at the same time, I don't even need to import it with Next.js. It just handles all that. It's the way it's set Webpack up. Okay, that time it committed. Let's move on. Properly offset submenus. This is another one that was simple enough. So if I right click here, you see it does properly not have the menu out of the window, but then I realized with submenus, you see it's gone. It's over there. It's basically invisible. Looks like I was able to do it in one file change here on the menu. I'm just going to apply that change directly to the menu component as soon as I find it. What the heck was it called? It was in menu index. Menu index. There it is. Let's take a look at this change here. So yeah, I just had to change this one effect where it was positioning the menu, and basically I just had to also account for the submenu. Yeah, we also have to account for submenus. I don't think there's a way to make this much more clean because yeah, I don't think this code would work with a third menu. Like if the submenu had a submenu, I'm not sure what would happen, to be honest. Luckily we don't have that right now, but that might be something I have to fix in another episode. I haven't really seen in Windows a third submenu, but I'm sure it's possible. Anyways, as far as what I did, so I say submenu offset screen X is based on, first off, there has to be a submenu, which I convert to a Boolean to know, is it there or isn't it? True or false, tell me. So true or false that, and this, so these are conditionals. So is there a submenu off screen? Yeah, is the submenu off screen? Says, is there a submenu and the menu's position plus its width is greater than its inner width. Now I had to do menu X because X and Y already exist up here as variables, and I'm using them in here. So I specify the menu here. Although should that be submenu? Because this is the menu. That's a good point. Oh no, this is the submenu's old position. It can be too. So yeah, is it a submenu and it has its position plus its width? This basically tells us if the submenu is off the screen. And here it handles adjusting it. So if it was off by X, then you take the width plus the submenu's element's X position, or 0 if for some reason it doesn't exist. Although it would exist, because if this were true, then that means that were true. So this doesn't need to have that. Oh, but it thinks it does? Possibly undefined. False. That's an error on its case, I think, because if this has to be true because this has to be true, so then that is not possible to be undefined. Oh wait, yeah it is, I guess. I mean, it's possible to not be an object at least, but whatever. Anyways, it wasn't too much code. Let's just take a look at it. Right click. There we go. Now the menu offsets the way you'd expect. And hopefully it does it in the reverse too. Oh, I guess it's not relevant here anyways. Normally it opens on the right, so cool. And we won't worry about trying to figure out if a third menu works. Is drag and drop still broken? Yep. All right, that's funny. I swear that wasn't broken, I thought before, but whatever. Okay, what was that commit then? That was properly offset submenu. Only took a simple change. There we go. And what's next on the list? Download multiple files. Okay, that's a simple enough one. This is kind of a neat one the way that I did it. Let's go out on a limb and should I even attempt to? No, I'm not even going to attempt to. Well, let's try the patch. Let's try the patch. See what happens. I feel like it won't work because I changed a bunch of other little things like use folder, which is part of this patch. But sometimes you hope for the best and it works out. Is what I've heard. It's apparently not a myth. This commit is BBX. Oh, it just applied. So sometimes the diffs are just in the right positions that it works. So for the file right-click context, all I've done is change the download file command to be called download files. And now it passes in the absolute entries as well that we're using in these other cases. And then, that's now exporting files. And here it's called files. And then here's the meat of the change. So what have I done? So here is the download file command. It's changed quite a bit. Before, it basically would read the file and then make a link to the file. I've taken the link part out into its own function called createLink, and where it passes in name. And if there's no file name, it's going to assume it's a zip, and it's going to use the download.zip syntax, or name, not a syntax. Otherwise, this function didn't change, except createLink now passes the contents along the buffer so that it can make a buffer URL. And the next function here is called getFile. Oh yeah, because I had this here. I was getting the files before. So I've turned this into a promise function. Because I needed to get each file so that I can turn them into a zip. So I need to asynchronously wait for each one, kind of await them. That's why I've turned it into this promise here, and then I'm doing some async await magic. This part was a little more complicated. So now what I'm doing, so now download files passes an array of paths. If it's only one path, then we just do pretty similar to what we did before, where we get that path. This seems useless to me, but I guess it's nice. And then we just do read file and we create that link. Just like how we were doing here. We get the buffer and the base name, just like it was base name before. Base name is the file name one. Oops. But in the other condition where there's more than one path, what I do is I do this promise all. So we have to wait for all the promises that are in this array. I take the paths array and I map it. And I asynchronously say, give me a path and I want you to convert it to this type, where an array of the file name for it and its buffer contents. So once it's got all those in, you get an array that's got, just like it says string or buffer. That's not true. Oh, that's a weird way that it decided to type that. If that's how it thinks this is going to come back, okay, sure. But yeah, it's going to be an array of arrays, I guess. It'd be an array that has arrays in it, and each array inside it has a file name and the buffer. And then this object from entries turns the file names into the keys and the buffers into the values, which coincides with an async zippable, which is part of my fflate zipping library that I use. And then all it does is it runs the zip command from fflate, where it says zip it, where it takes the zip contents into an object, and then it gets this callback that creates multiple links for each one. Oh wait, no, for just one, sorry. Multiple, I'm making shit up here. It's still just one link, but the data, instead of being a file, is now a buffer that is a zip file. And there's no file name now, so it just uses download.zip. Got a message here from Soter Padu saying, why do you need async await in this map? The reason that I need it is for this get file function is a promise, because the reading happens asynchronously, where it has to get it via the HTTP GET, I believe. Well, actually, it uses multiple methods because the file system is an overlay file system. So if the file already existed when you first visited the page, it's going to use HTTP GET. But if it's a file you made, then it will get it from the IndexedDB database. But either way, this happens asynchronously, so we have to wait for it. And then in the callback, we resolve the content of that file. So it kind of has to asynchronously go through each one of these and has to await this get file piece of it. That's why I've used async here. And it's a little harder to use async await on my file system functions because they're coming from this library called BrowserFS, and they do async and await a little bit different, and they really rely a lot on callbacks here. So I'm thinking at one point of making this read file function into a more generic async awaitable function and having those get exported from the context, from the file context, but I haven't gotten there yet. So that's the reason I'm awaiting it, though, is because if I were to just say get file, it's going to run this instantly, and then this callback's going to happen later. But if this all happens instantly, then the zip's going to try to be made before some of these buffers have been gotten. Let's try it out. So we'll go into documents, into images, maybe not images. Let's go into icons and open it up there. And let's take a couple of these icons, this one, and this one. We right click and press download. And there we go. We see in the bottom here, we got a zip. And if I click the zip, I can see on my computer it has three files in it. And I can drag the zip from my computer back onto the desktop here and see it. And then I can drag it into here, and then I can double click it and open it, and I can see it contain those 3 files. So I was able to make that zip and have it download it. And if I were to right click just one file and press download, then we get just that file. And if I take it and just drag it right up here, I can put it back up and get it again. So cool, that's working now. So now we have a way to download files off of there. So if someone, once I have my blog posts on there, someone could just download them all and then read them depending on what file format I decide for my blog posts. I haven't completely decided yet. It might be the kind of thing where they'd export and not download, but not download as a zip, I mean, sorry, as the raw files. Anyways, download multiple files. That one's in the books, in the bag, whatever you call it. What's next on my list here? Not too much, I think. Not too much. Basically just one other thing. Focused on dragged items. I didn't even know that was a problem. Okay, yeah, oh yeah, this is just adding to this. So if you remember at one point I said after a focus of an element, you want to have, before that, you want to have the focus to get it on the list. I also forgot to do the blurring of the list. So I don't want to append to the list. I want to clear the list and say, here's the thing we're focusing on now. Here I didn't do it because it's one or the other. Either it's going to focus or it's going to blur. But in this case, this else condition is just going to jump into it and something might have been focused. So blur anything that was focused and then refocus there. Got another message here from Soter Padu. Got it. Could you test removing it? I believe the behavior would be the same without it. Oh, okay, cool. That's possible. I know that promise.all could be doing some magic. So yeah, let's try it out. Thanks for the suggestion. Let me just commit this, and then I want to try it now. The less, the better. Okay, fixed focus on drag items. And if it does work without it, I'd love to find an Eslint rule for that, because that seems like the kind of thing that would be lintable. Because sometimes I found it where it tells me, like, you don't need async and await. I have it in a few places. Here I think was nope. I'll just do promise all. I don't think I use promise all very often, so that could be another reason. I use it in 2 places. Oh yes, you might be right, because in this case I literally used promise all and did not use await. You're probably dead right. Cool. Yeah, it's not complaining. Let's try it. Nice. It'd be good if there was an Eslint rule for that, if it was unnecessary. Oh wait, can I not download shortcuts? I guess it is kind of silly to download shortcuts. Okay, fair enough. Try these instead. Download. Seems to have worked. Let me open the zip. Oh, it's empty though. Maybe it didn't work. Maybe the await works when the only function it's calling is that. I don't know. I'm gonna have to dig into that, but let's try it again. I'll try with the original test here. So I have 3 of these. I press download. It's extremely fast, suspiciously fast. Now when I drag it here and I open it, yeah, you see it's empty. Well, maybe it doesn't work. I don't know. I'm gonna write it down as a note. I wonder if it were like this, if I were doing this, maybe then it would have been okay to do it the other way. I don't know. Let's just try. So I put it back, and then let's try the exact same thing. 3 of these, download. Put these on here and check it out. Yeah, see, now they're there. Well, there seems to be something to it, but I think you're on to something, because I use promise all here without an await, so I'll dig into that more. Thanks for the suggestion. Why can't I do promise all without async await? Question mark. Yeah, no problem. He said, interesting, thanks for trying it out. Yeah, no problem. I think you're on to something there, because I actually kind of half remember that, and I see I didn't use it here. But I need to, maybe I can convert this piece into the promise and just return that. Because I have a path already, honestly. Let's try it. Let's play a little bit more with this. So get file. Instead, let's make get file a return of a record. No, wait, is it a record? No, it's just an array. An array with a string and a buffer. And then here in the resolve piece, we'll change it to be this. Make that get out of my way, this thing. Contents was this piece here, right? And we had path. Okay, why is it saying, oh yeah, because I took get file out of there. Okay, so let's leave that part, and now Where was the code? I've lost myself here. Here it is. So we'll get rid of async await, and then we'll make it just about the get file command. It rearranged the code a bit there. Okay, let's refresh that. It's mad. Oh, sometimes it gets mad in a loop. Let's just close it and open another one. I'm gonna clear my cache again, and now let's try it. Now the whole function is essentially a promise instead of just partially. Let's see if that's the winning combination. Stick to the 16-bit icons to keep the test the same. Ugh. I'm gonna fix the window size eventually. All right, right click, download. Hey, there we go. Okay. So yeah, you were right. I could get rid of async await, but then it requires the entire function the entire promise be returned. Because I wasn't returning a promise then anymore. I was returning an array that had a promise inside it. So yeah, I needed to. This is actually nicer anyways, because before here I had a little bit of the logic as to what gets returned, but now it's like a file is, where I lost it again here. Yeah, a file is this now. It's the string and the buffer. Okay, cool. Thanks, Satur. Nice tip there. Let's write it down then. Don't need async await for get file. Promise all. Cool. I'll comment that on here, uncomment it here, and there we go. Cool. Thanks for the tip. I think we just finished the list. I'd like to take another peek at my next stream because I kind of broke some stuff. Now you can remove the arrow function also. Oh yeah, I think you're probably right. Totally. I wish there was a linting rule for that too, you know, honestly. But yeah, you're right. Where did it go now? Let's minify it more. Smaller, enhance, whatever the opposite of enhance is. Here it is. Yeah, that just gets smoother by the minute. That looks nice. Promise all, paths.map, get file, then zip contents. Yeah. It just keeps getting simpler. Let's test it again, but I have confidence in what you said there. That does look right. I don't know why it was crashing about that. Is that something? Maybe I can't reload while something's mounted. Something to be fixed another day. Let's try this out here. Yep. I can just feel from the speed that it worked. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Keeps getting smaller. So let's don't need arrow function. Yeah, I'll just yeah, I can't make that any shorter, that explanation. Don't need this arrow function. I'll say this arrow function. I need arrow functions, just not that one. Thanks again. So turn that into a couple commits and just made it even smaller. Oh, it's complaining. What happened? I got another lint rule here that some broke. Let's take a peek. Oh, I think I have another lint rule that hates that. Right. Do not pass function get file directly. Yeah, I feel like this rule is assuming that I don't want that behavior, but I actually do. Let's double check this. It's one of those unicorn linting rules. No array callback reference. Prevent passing a function reference directly to iterator methods. Right, I remember the reasoning behind this, I think. Now I am questioning the change. So the point here that it's making, and I remember this now, is... Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. So the problem is that, I mean, it actually doesn't make a difference for get file because get file has only one argument. But let's say the other argument was like... there we go. Let's say the other argument for get file was like delete folder, you know, and it's an optional Boolean that we almost never use. The problem with that, if you do this, is that map actually in the callback returns the value which we're using as the path, but it also returns these two other things, this index number and the array. So if for some reason in theory, if I decided to add an argument here and I still did the same thing, now we get to the index 1, it's going to be true. And let's say here I have something where I'm deleting a folder, you know. So now this secondary option's happening when I'm just thinking, oh, hey, it's only passing the path. So it's actually a good point. I think that's why I have stopped doing that for the most part. Just in case. So I'm going to leave it for now as it was with this explanation and that linting rule for now, because I don't want to mess with the linting rules. But I actually do prefer it without that arrow function. I think it's smoother. But the linting rule has a point about the second argument and the what if for the future. Because at some point, if I did change get file, I'd forget that, oh yeah, I passed it in map, and now that second argument is actually the index. So I don't think I'd remember. But anyways, thanks for the tips, and now I don't have async await in there. Yeah. Yeah, he says, yeah, oh, never thought of that. Yeah, it's interesting. That's some of the stuff I've added with these ESLint rules where it's like, oh yeah, I guess it could work that way, you know? But most of the time you never notice it. But I guess it's these edge cases where you don't expect it to do that. And it's not easy to tell sometimes when you're passing in callback functions as to know when the thing gets called, what kind of arguments is it going to give? Is it going to keep giving more arguments than I'm expecting? So anyways, let's see if we can, let's just at least see if any of these got fixed. Only double, yeah, that didn't get fixed. That's something I want to fix later. The refreshing for drag, I want to peek at that again because I really feel like that was fixed at one point. Let's try to drag a file. And so if I drag this and let go, that's not the result I wanted. Let's try to figure out what I broke here. So that happens at the drag and drop state, which is, just type the word drop and see. Use file drop. Okay, file drop, handle file input. So handle file input happens here. And this is the case where it's filed. This is the case I care about here. Something got messed up here, I think. Because this was working before. I wonder if multiples work now, but singles don't. Let's try that theory out, actually. I got two of them here, and I drag. They work, but if I drag one of them, it's wrong. Oh, yeah. Oh, good. So that was it, at least. Cool. So let's just figure that out. That was when I did a toString, right? Specifically, which one was it? It was one of these. Was this one? No, this one, no, this one. Yes, this one. So, right. So we had this focused list. I wonder if you remember before. Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Because before I had that new set and I was taking them all. I wonder what happened. Why didn't that work? Let's try this again. So I drag, and when I let go, it's empty. Oh, wait. Am I console logging like a second thing now? Get rid of this. We already know. Well, sometimes what I like to do with the console logs is put it in an object. Then at least I know what I'm logging. Also, there's other ways to do things. Like you can do debugger. I don't know if people know about debugger. But if I put debugger in here, and now when I go to the code and I try to do one of those drags, you see right away it jumps to the debugger. And then if I start if I F8 or F11, which one is it? Not F11. Okay, so the debugger is not ideal when you're doing live streams because it actually messed up things as it paused. Let's not do the debugger. Let's get rid of that right now, in fact. But it can be pretty handy sometimes. I'm a console logger myself, though, have been for years, so I still kind of rely on that. Was it path? No, it was, what was it? File. And there's also URL, too, but I think it must be file. It's got to be file. Let's take a look at this again. Open this. So if I want to drag this shortcut, yeah, so file had something in it, but that's not considered a focused entry. I think something with dragging, it's not, it's losing focus, but I actually don't know if I'd want that. Yeah, it's lost focus here, but when I have multiples, it doesn't lose focus in the same way. Yeah, and then that's there. But when it's singles, okay. I'll tell you what. I could have some logic here where if focused entries.length is 0, then use the file. Otherwise, use this. Let's get rid of the console log. I'm done with that. I think that'll work. My one concern here would be this, then file paths would no longer be an array, actually. Oh, wait, it was splitting it. How does split work again? Here, I just jumped to here. So if I split... Oh, I gotta spell split correctly though. That's the real trick. Okay, that actually works fine. So it should give me what I'm expecting. So that actually should fix it. Let me just try to remember what I did. Right. If there's no focused entries, then use the file. Otherwise, just map through the focused entries. And before I was just making one set every time, but I think this logic probably is a little cleaner. Okay, let's try this now. Hopefully it won't complain anymore. Drag, drop. That didn't really work still in a lot of ways. It's funny because multiples do, so how do I keep breaking it? What happened here? I refresh. It's like broken. Oh, I know why. Right. Problem number 2 here. So, right, the join piece. The join piece needs to be there. In this case, file like that. Okay. So you need to give the full path. I think I fixed it finally. Now when I drag, there we go. Drag back, drag multiples, drag multiple back. Okay, cool. Now here, if I drag and then drop, oh, okay, that's fixed too now. Because before when I was doing that, it would jump to the top because of the way sorting works, I think. So if I refresh, this should go to the top, I think. Okay, it went up anyways, but it wasn't going up before. Like if I delete this from here, oops, if I delete it from here, what? Delete. Okay, I just missed it, clicking it a few times. So yeah, so now it's down here, but in a refresh, it would go back up there. But if I drag and let go, it's fine. If I right click and press refresh, it goes up, yeah. At some point, I'm going to fix that too. That involves sorting order and stuff, and I haven't completely gotten to that yet. But this fixes a few of our problems. What were our 2 problems here? The refreshing on every drag and the broken drag and drop internal. Right, those are fixed now. Fixed drag drop of single files. It was actually a single file issue. So I actually probably did have that issue before, but when you're testing, like, I want to make multiple drags work, and I did that, and then I didn't test single drags. This comes back to having tests and the fact that I don't have any tests. I have one test that basically is like, it's almost like an integration test in some ways, because it's just testing whether the app loads in any form. But it helps. There we go. And it's decently fast now too. And we got Eslint, we got Stylelint. What were some other bugs? Only double click. No, that's something else. Dry up unique name functions. Yeah, these are stylistic things. Document sidebar button doesn't work when Windows open. Those 2 are bugs, I think. Only double click. No, that one's not a bug. Actually, very few of these are bugs. Names, change the way it works, and this one's a bug. I think I'll leave these for next episode. We're already 2.5 hours in. We've already done 40-ish commits, I think. What have we got from today? We got copy paste, we got multiple drags, we have download, cut. We're coming along here. This right click menu is starting to get a bit hefty. It's starting to look a little more Windows-esque sometimes. I can set this as the background image. Oh yeah, that looks nice. Set the better one here. Yeah, I could center it too, I guess. That's better. Nice. Cool. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks you, Sidebar Buttons, for your comments there. If anyone else has any comments after the show, please throw them in the YouTube comments. If you have some ideas for some future shows or some things you'd like to see, some features you'd like me to add. If you like this video, please throw me a like. If you want to follow me, please subscribe. It also helps motivate me, and and you can kind of see what kind of videos I'm posting. I'm going to start doing some demo videos, hopefully, that are going to be a little shorter so people can kind of get an idea what the app is and see if they want to come in and see how I'm coding it throughout the weeks. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and see you in the next one. Bye.